welcome back to the WOR-TV Holiday Movie Special. Now we bring you the original King Kong starring Fay Wray.
The moment our fellow geeks, dweebs, nerds, and other unfortunates have been fervently waiting for has finally arrived. It's time for TMI, Confessionals of the Nerd Kind. And now, your hosts, Jeff Nerf Herder Chandler, Jim Kaiju Baker, and Christina Yojimbo Henry. You can continue. And now, let's get on with the show. Here is TMI.
This is our sixth.
Is it? 18, 19?
Sixth annual Godzilla Monster Marathon. Double creature feature. All right.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving.
Gobble, gobble. Holy crap. Here we are.
Do we have a presidential turkey that we've adopted? We really should.
Oh, we should actually save him from the butcher block. A TMI turkey?
A TMI turkey. There he is. There he is. I hear him.
Run free, my friend. Run free.
He's wearing his Godzilla t-shirt this morning, it looks like.
Don't make me spit out my coffee.
This is our sixth, right? You just mentioned this to me.
Double creature feature. We've been leaning into this for a very long time. We could just make this whole show Godzilla.
Would
we have gotten through all those movies by now? Yeah, I guess maybe.
Definitely we would have. Yeah. We would have. So this is why we do this once a year, is because we can eke them out slowly and have something to look forward to year after year.
I feel like this first movie we could watch 3 times and it's 3 completely different movies.
We did the same with Gojira. We've never covered the Raymond Burr version, so that could still be on the table on the cards.
Why would we want to though? But I think you were right in choosing the American version of this first feature, Godzilla Raids Again.
And when you listen to the commentary on this and they point out just some of the gaffes, it makes you appreciate it all the more. It's like some of the stuff is laugh out loud. You know, you don't need the commentary in a lot of cases to laugh out loud at this thing, but
no, but it's not meant to be funny.
I don't know. Some of this seems pretty damn funny.
There's some questionable decisions that are made in this movie.
So just as some background, hopefully, since this is our 6th annual Monster Fest, right? TMI Monster Fest, that you've made this a part of your Thanksgiving ritual, just like the Macy's Day Parade. And having dinner. So if you have, thank you so much, because we're doing this for you.
I think these are probably some of our favorite episodes here.
Yes, definitely. They are our favorite episodes.
That Thursday, Thanksgiving, curling up in front of the TV. You got the parade on. You're going to get some Godzilla movies later.
What traditionally used to happen, and we've been trying to sustain this over 6 years, is that Thanksgiving weekend, as Jeff just alluded to, meant not only turkey dinner, but Godzilla and King Kong. King Kong always used to show on Turkey Day itself, along with, a couple other movies that were pretty much almost always Mighty Joe Young and Son of Kong.
Yeah. All of which we had covered. And so since we are in the New York area, these played on WOR-TV, Channel 9 in New York. And then on Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, would always be a 3-movie, sometimes 4, Godzilla Film Festival, which would usually alternate between King Kong versus Godzilla and Godzilla versus the Cosmic Monster, better known as Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, Godzilla versus Megalon, and Godzilla versus the Smog Monster. Oh, that's your favorite.
That is my favorite, yes.
That is your favorite.
So we've covered all those movies already.
Yeah.
So now we're delving out into the movies that they didn't show on Thanksgiving and the day after, but should have. We're still trying to keep the Godzilla Kong angle as well, because we're going to run out of Kong movies.
We are going to run out of Kong.
Yeah. So we kind of took license with this one, even. It's not really a Kong movie. So this year we are covering the first ever sequel
to the original Gojira, which is known, if you take the literal Japanese translation, it's Godzilla's counterattack. But
interesting.
Toho named its English version, which I think played in other English-speaking territories outside of America, Godzilla Raids Again. But as we will get into, inexplicably, in America, it was released in 1959 as Gigantis the Fire Monster.
Which boggles my mind. The history behind this I have it. I own this and I've watched it, but I've never really put the pieces together that, yeah, you have two completely different movies going on here.
Yeah, much like the original Godzilla or Gojira was released in America as Godzilla King of the Monsters with added footage of Raymond Burr.
Playing Steve Martin.
This also had some filler and added footage and was redubbed, not to the level of success that the first film was, if you would even call that first film a level of success, because at least that film kept the somber tone.
Yes, correct.
Of the Japanese original, where this just gave free license to whatever it was that they wanted to throw in here.
We'll get into it. It boggles my mind because the original, this Godzilla Raids Again, 1955, a year after the first Gojira.
6 months after the first Gojira.
Months. So this is kind of like what they did with Kong, right? King Kong was so successful that they immediately greenlit a sequel.
A quickie sequel.
Far inferior.
They didn't have the same director with this one, Ichiro Honda.
But he's attached. Is he not attached to this movie at all?
Well, I mean, he's commented on it, but I don't see him in the credits at all. Why do you see differently?
I thought I did. That's why I have it listed, but I could be wrong.
But the director of this movie, Motoyoshi Oda, who was known at Toho. You know, it's too bad that Christina isn't here to talk about this as well, because she always has some insight into the inner workings of Toho. She has a lot of knowledge about that. And we've always talked about how Toho had all these players, all these actors that would come back and back and back for different movies because they were on contract. And apparently Oda, the director, also was also on contract with Toho, but he did a lot of B movies for them, not a lot of the A-level movies, which Godzilla was seen as. Gojira was seen as an A-level movie. The success of Gojira, I guess, maybe surprised Toho a bit. So they obviously wanted to rush something out in the theaters because the original Gojira came out in November of 54. This came out in April of 55. So they wasted no time in like writing it and filming it, you know, even with all the effects sequences.
Yeah. I just looked it up on IMDb. Ichiro Honda is credited, but with the clips that you see from the first movie.
Yeah, because that's
why his name is attached.
They use stock
uncredited.
Footage.
Yeah, but you're right. It's all footage from the first one.
Right.
None of these characters seem to remember happened. But
no, especially not in the American version.
In the American one. Well, that's because he's not even named Godzilla. His name is Gigantis. Just call me Fatty.
Gigantis is female in the American version. This came out, as we said, in April 1955 in Japan, and it did fairly well. Not as well as the first Godzilla, but Honda, and this is what, even though Honda didn't direct this film, Honda did comment that he was amused, maybe a little upset, that critics in Japan were kinder to this movie than to his film.
Because his movie was serious.
Yeah.
And they didn't know what to make of a monster movie that actually was trying to
So he was criticized, for trying to make a commentary via a science fiction film, where this is a pretty much straight ahead.
How dare you make us think?
Yeah, so there's no real comment trying to be made here. So I think this was more palatable to critics at the time.
Well, we just talked last week that, Five Nights at Freddy's was was aimed at 10-year-olds. So I guess they just assumed that, these monster movies were kid movies. This is what they should be.
The American version is just head-scratchingly hilarious. And it's basically, it's not like they changed the entire story around. The story is still there.
No, but the introduction of the narration alone is enough to make you be like, all right, what are we trying to do here? Because right out of the gate, it's like they're portraying us humans as like these maniacal monsters that are looking to conquer space, and anything that comes in front of us, we're going to just kill. It's weird, the whole tone of it.
Before we get into the movie itself, Godzilla Raids Again, the North American film rights were purchased by Harry Ribnick, Richard Kay, Edward Barrison, Paul Schreibman, who is a key figure here, and Edmund Goldman. I don't know if these guys, it sounds like a law firm.
It does.
Ribnick, Kay, Barrison, Schreibman, and Goldman. But Schreibman takes credit for retitling the film to Gigantis, because the reason he gives is that he didn't want to confuse audiences. He didn't want to confuse audiences and make them think that this was Godzilla. I'm like, why wouldn't
It is Godzilla. It's the same monster.
Why wouldn't you want to do that?
Right, correct.
You've got a proven proper. Again, this is early days, right? I don't think that there's a lot of sequels being made at this point in time.
Is it because the monster died in the first movie? So they're like, well, how are we going to explain that this is a new monster
they
with the same
explain it
name?
in the movie that it's a second Godzilla in the Japanese
simple
version.
as that, right?
Yeah. He thought it would be more successful if he came out of the gate with a new monster rather than a retread, because maybe he thought people would think it's a re-release of the first Godzilla. I don't know. But
the fact that the idea that they kind of do away with Godzilla's trademark scream and replace it with anguirus noise is kind of a weird thing.
Because Anguirus, he's making the same noise in the movie, so they're both have the same cry.
Yeah. All right, let's get into this right now. Is it anguirus or anguirus?
Well, it's spelled anguirus, but I always used to say Anguirus.
Well, that makes me angry.
Anguirus is just, it hurts my mouth to try to say that.
Okay.
When I was watching the Japanese movie, from what I was hearing, I think that they're saying Anguirus in the.
Okay, that's what it sounds like. That's why I wrote it like that. And I'm like, oh, well, I guess I just been saying it wrong all this time.
The movie is played out with the backdrop of like a cannery, a canning factory, a fishing operation. Yeah. So you're already going from like the full scale horror of Gojira to this small scale character driven. I kind of realized that they probably didn't have the time to do all the special effects scenes that maybe they would have. But there's so much we were talking about not too long ago, Five Nights at Freddy's. Just get to the animatronics, right?
Right. Just give me the monsters.
Just give me the monsters here. I don't want to. I don't care about these fishermen cannery guys.
You don't care about his buddy Kobayashi, and
I don't
hooking up with the Hidi Demi or whatever her name is, because Papa's going to lend her the car and let's go hoo up on the hill.
No, I don't care about that at all. You're talking about the opening of this U.S. version. You get a very morose, deeply voiced introduction. This is the hydrogen bomb. Yeah. A new horror. So you get this narration at the beginning, an overview of the nuclear landscape and what a nightmare it is, and stock footage of toy rockets and real rockets. Are there not secrets left on this planet Earth? This is the story of the price of progress on a little nation.
The price of progress.
A little nation of people, he calls it.
Yeah, and then it's very condescending because they come down to this Osaka, Japan, and you see these people working in the fields, and he goes, hard work makes for happiness. I'm like,
which again, none of this is in the Japanese version.
No.
It just starts with the guy in the plane.
Way. Yeah, setting the tone.
Hard work makes for happiness. Yeah.
Screw you. But yeah, Kobayashi crashes his plane.
These two pilots, they work for a cannery, and it's their job to fly over the ocean and look for school of fish so they can tell the fishing boats where to go. This doesn't seem fair to the fish, does it? It's like, where's the hunt aspect of this thing?
No. Listen, fish travel in schools. You think they'd be smarter?
So yeah, we have Kobayashi, who, if you were to just watch the U.S. version, you'd think he's the big galoot, right? The dummy.
He is the galoot, yeah.
Sukiyaka. So he is played by Hiroshi Kazumi. If you're a fan of these Godzilla movies, you recognize him right away because he's in several of them. So he is the hero of the movie, and Kobayashi is kind of the sidekick, for lack of a better term. So as Jeff said, Kobayashi's plane fails goes down because they have pontoons. It doesn't crash into the water. So he just floats calmly, up to an island. And his radio still works. So he radios back to the cannery that his plane gave out. And he's on this island. Please come pick me up.
He goes to pick him up, but then they're like hanging out on the beach making a fire. Just pick him up and leave. Why?
Yeah.
Why are you like camping out?
Complaining about women or whatever. Like trying to please a woman is trying to swim the ocean or something.
Yeah.
One of the lines.
That was so weird. It's like, dude, maybe you should stay on that island.
Also, let me just point out that I watched the American version on the Sony Classics DVD release of this, which is what you have as well. The Criterion box set of the Showa era Godzilla movies that was released a couple of years ago, which I also have, has this movie on Blu-ray, but it only has the Japanese version.
Oh, smart move. We're only
or not so smart, because I think that box set is extremely lacking, because if you're going to release these movies, look to what Sony Classics did. They released everything that they possibly could. The US version, the Japanese version, they put commentary on all these movies. They did, some special features. None of this is found on the Criterion box set, which is shocking to me.
Well, that is shocking.
Because Criterion is like the king of bonus material and sourcing rare footage or what have you. So there's precious little of that in these Showa films on the Criterion. So that's why I went back to the Sony Classics, which I think until something else comes out, that'll be the definitive version of some of these movies. But there you go. So anyway, these two pilots are on the island. Suddenly they stop the conversation. Did you hear that?
Right.
They walk for about 50 feet and suddenly they see these two giant monsters fighting. You didn't know until that point that you were sharing this tiny island with Godzilla and another monster that were fighting?
No, you didn't see him from the air. They must have been hiding.
In the US version, they see this, and it's a quick shot of the monsters fighting on the island until they both fall into the ocean, which is a great shot, by the way.
That's usually how Godzilla movies end, by the way.
Yeah, with both monsters falling into the ocean.
Right, correct.
But before they do that, the first guy says, "What's that?" And the second guy says, Kobayashi, I don't know.
Right. But in the Japanese, they know it's Godzilla.
Oh, they obviously know that's a Godzilla.
Right. Yeah, remember that thing last year? Came through, tore us apart.
That's another one of those.
Not a big fan of that.
So they come back after both monsters fall into the sea. They both get into the working plane and go back. Now, it's also worth it to point out at this point that the American film is narrated from beginning to end by the character of Tsukioka. And the narrator is actually telling you things that you're seeing happen on screen.
Oh, yeah. We get a full geology lecture on the volcanic island formations as he's searching for Kobayashi. It's like, oh, thank you for that.
None of this narration is in the Japanese version.
No, it is really dumbed down.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure why they... And what's even dumber down is when they get back and they're trying to tell everybody this panel of what they actually encountered in the one guide that Professor breaks out the dinosaur book. And I'm like, oh, I think I had that dinosaur book. And then he's like, oh, the brain is in several parts of its body. There's one in its head, there's one in its abdomen, and one in its chest. And I'm like, yeah, that's not the dinosaur book I had. I don't know.
And he also goes on to say, in the book, a nuclear blast will awaken these dinosaurs.
Yes. Yeah, they're just waiting.
Yeah, again, when you watch the same scene in the Japanese version, it sounds just like he's reading off of a normal dinosaur book. So, and also the book identifies the Godzilla creature as a Gigantis.
Yeah.
A fire monster.
Yeah. Is this where we get those the shot of the T-Rex, the people in those inflatable T-Rex costumes walking around Joshua Tree?
Yes, and again, so this again was an addition from the American producers. This was stock footage from whatever public domain sci-fi films.
They look like those inflatable T-Rex costumes you could buy at like Spirit Halloween now.
They do. They absolutely do.
And they're just galloping around the desert.
So this is, again, an added scene. Once the fishermen come back and they report on what they've seen, they have this round table with all these scientists. They show a film, which is, added in by the American producers, of the formation of the universe. I'm like, who filmed the formation of the universe?
Right, correct. Look what I have.
And so there's that scene of the inflatable T-Rexes, as you mentioned. And there's also a scene with what looks like one of Gonzo's chickens coming out of the primordial soup.
There's a lot of hand puppet theater going on in this, and a lot of plane crashing. That little goober guy coming out of the swamp.
So at this meeting of scientists,
use that loosely, that name,
Dr. Yamane from the original film is there. And so in the American version, he's there to tell everybody what happened in the last movie. Like, a creature like this destroyed my city. Nobody else at the table knows that this ever happened.
Right. And it was only last year.
Yeah. And they're like, wow, that's terrible.
Right. I'm like, nobody remembers this?
But in the Japanese movie, again, it's a little bit head scratchingly like, why is this guy showing this footage when this just happened? He's basically in his dialogue says, I'm here to remind you about what one of these creatures can do. Just an excuse to show some footage from the last movie. Yeah, all the info that they need to understand these creatures is in this dinosaur book. They were the original, and the book says they were the original plundering murderers.
They dominated this planet. It's like, what? They didn't.
Says this in the book. It's all in the book.
Must be true. Yeah. This is in the American. This is where we get George Takei, though. He's one of the voices over the radio.
He's voicing a few characters here.
Godzilla reporting. Oh my.
So these guys are so clueless, especially in the American version, about the first Godzilla. How did you destroy him? And then so, of course, Dr. Yamane has to tell them the story about the oxygen destroyer. Now we don't even have that weapon to use.
So now we're screwed.
Yeah. After this, you see the monsters so intermittently. There's so much human-driven drivel going on here that it's hard to sit through. The American version, I think, is 10 minutes shorter than the Japanese. So you're not losing any monster footage in those cut 10 minutes. You're losing more human footage. So the Japanese version,
they could have cut those damn ballroom dancing scenes.
They could have.
Because people are like, all right, everyone, forget it. Just go enjoy yourself. Yeah. Forget your troubles. Nothing to worry about. Nothing to see here. And we all know how that ends up.
There's one scene immediately after the boardroom scene of all the scientists getting together where you have the main pilot, Tsukioka, and his girlfriend. And the girl says out loud, and this is in the US version, I've got to be brave. It's so eerie and still. And then she looks at her pilot boyfriend, you're so brave. And the guy says, banana oil. I'm not brave at all.
Banana oil?
So I'm listening to the commentary. So I wrote this down. I'm like, did he say banana oil? So I rewound it because I didn't have subtitles on this. I rewound it. Yeah, he says banana oil. So in the commentary, I guess that they worked extra hard in the US dubbed version to find words that would fit their lip movements. And banana oil was like a 20s phrase that kind of meant BS. So that's why he says, when she says, you're so brave, he says, banana oil. But the phrase was so old, even by the 50s, the dubbing actors couldn't say it without laughing. So there were so many takes, apparently,
banana oil
to get this out. And I guess a couple of reviewers also noticed that and said how terrible the dialogue was. You were talking about the ballroom scene. So Gigantis in the US version is seen to be heading for Osaka. And then she changes course at one point. So the radio announces this, that, Osaka seems to be spared. Gigantis is moving away from Osaka. Everybody celebrate, have a great time. So everybody goes out, right, to celebrate that they're not going to get stomped.
Yeah. Maybe we should have kept our voices down because we just drew its attention. I do like the fact that they turned off all the lights in the city. They're like, shh, if we turn off the lights, maybe she won't think we're home.
Well, that's what they did. That's what they did in World War II. That was they.
Well, that's because you got bombs dropping everywhere. Yeah.
But apparently, the dinosaur book also let them know that these creatures were very sensitive to light, even though that they're fire monsters. They don't like light.
Fire good.
But when they're dancing in that long ballroom scene, the girl, his girlfriend, has such a blank stare. Like, are you alive or even enjoying this, dancing with this guy? Then suddenly on the radio, very sorry, but we screwed up.
We screwed up. Sorry. My bad.
Everybody evacuate what you're doing. Gigantis is coming this way. Thank you very much. Bye.
Then everybody runs. I will tell you this version of Godzilla, Gigantis, whatever you want to call him, the teeth, the overbite on these teeth are just out of control.
Well, that is when you see those shots of the weird teeth sticking out.
Yeah. That's
the hand puppet version.
The hand puppet, right. It doesn't necessarily match up with the full body suit version.
Right. There's a lot of hand puppet stuff going on.
There's a lot. It's hand puppet theater going on here. Yeah. There's a lot of hand puppet stuff going on.
Godzilla or Gigantis is approaching Osaka. Whenever she roars, it sounds like anguirus or whatever you want to say. So that roar is coming out of Godzilla's mouth, not his own. So again, I think because they wanted to distance this movie as much as they could from the original Godzilla.
Bizarre.
In the Japanese version, it's all Godzilla's roar.
Godzilla.
Yeah.
There's a little bit you can hear. There's a little bit mixed, but yeah, it's Anguirus.
Yeah. The same roar that Anguirus always gave later on in the series, whenever you saw him come back. So the plan is to fire flares into the night to lure Gigantis away, because they figure even though that
and it works,
she is sensitive to light, she's going to follow the light.
Yeah, it's like the T-Rex in Jurassic Park.
Yeah. Does work. And then you get this bizarre 10-minute scene.
What is this? The Con Air? This is like Con Air all of a sudden.
You get these prisoners that are being shuttled from point A to point B in the back of a van.
Paddy wagon.
The most inept prison guards that you are ever likely to find. They hatch a plan amongst themselves to break out. So they grab one of they're not even handcuffed or, they're just sitting there hanging out.
Like I said, it's like a paddy wagon. They're just in the back. And at one point, the guy's like, "What's going on back there?" He's like, "Oh, Bob's got gas issues." Okay.
And the prisoner says that to him, like, correct. Okay, I believe you.
Okay, yeah. Then this comes like the fugitive. Suddenly, these three stooges are on the run.
Yep. So they grab the guy's gun. They take over the van, and they all escape. And they jump into a fuel truck.
One good bullet would have just done them in.
So then there's a car chase where the fuel truck has got the criminals in it. And then our two heroes, the pilots, just happen to be driving by at the time, and the police jump into the back of their car. So they're involved in the car chase.
Yeah.
So it's a very slow moving car chase, by the way.
But they careen out of control. And it's like, he just went around that corner at like 20 miles an hour. There's no way he was going that fast.
And they crash into like an oil refinery or something. So there's a massive explosion.
Suddenly, Gigantis is like, "Wait, what's that over there?" It's like, these idiots just doomed us all.
A very convoluted way of getting Gigantis back to Osaka, this entire subplot of these prisoners.
And they somehow survive. They survived that explosion.
Well, no, they don't. But three other prisoners from the back of that truck.
Ones?
Yeah, there were three different ones that you see later.
Because I'm like, how did they? Okay.
Because the one guy
did not pick up that.
The one guy you see later has the samurai haircut, and the guy in none of the guys in the truck had that. So these are different guys.
Okay.
Godzilla turns back around, and he's fighting with some of the warplanes there, and then Anguirus shows up himself.
Yeah.
And in the Japanese version, one of the officials says, "Oh, here comes the second one. I think the flares actually drew him in as it was leading Gigantis away."
That didn't work at all.
Now they're fighting again, just like they were when you first saw the two of them at the beginning, but they're in the city. And I just have to comment on how impressive, because this particular Anguirus suit is not the same one that you see movies later, like in Destroy All Monsters. That's like a whole revamp of the character. But this is an impressive suit, because if you wanted to make an easy monster to make a suit out of, this is not the one you would choose. It's got like the whole turtle spine thing. It's well put together. The little hand puppet is something else entirely.
Wow.
But when you see full shots of this Anguirus suit, it's really impressive. The monsters go at it, and the interesting thing about their fight in the city is that it's filmed in
fast motion, where in the later movies, everything's very slow because you want to get a sense of how big they are.
The big
right?
they are, right.
This is just like Keystone Cops. It's like, you know.
This was an accident, though.
I did read that.
This was not on purpose. The special effects director overcranked the camera. They were actually supposed to film it in slow motion, exactly what you're saying, so that it sense of the scale and the fact that, and so, they do take on like this very cartoon characteristic. You know what's even better? Fast forwarding at 1.5 while you're watching that, you go even faster. And it is Keystone Cops. It is very entertaining.
They both go down. This is where there's 3 more prisoners that have escaped from the truck, try to run down into the subway.
Not so smart.
Not so smart, because the monsters collapse the ceiling of the subway and all the water from the bay comes in. And this is a great composite shot.
I agree. There's a decent shot. There's a decent effect for 1955.
Yeah. And I guess it's helped by the black and white photography, right?
It does what it needs to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm. You see these guys, running down the subway platform, which you realize, after the water comes barreling in, is a miniature. And these 3 actors are composites on the miniature. Yeah. So when the water comes over the miniature, these 3 guys disappear, and it really looks like they've been washed away.
Yeah,
and it's really
pretty decent. It's a quick shot, but it's pretty clean.
Yeah.
But this is also where, the 2 monsters are fighting and the cops are all lined up and they're like crouching down. Like, all right, if we just get really low, he won't see us. And I'm like, why are you crouching?
So this is the midpoint of the movie, right? This battle in the city of Osaka. Surprisingly, because I'm not really that familiar with this movie, and I'll get into why a little bit later, but it was surprising to me on this viewing how quickly Godzilla beats Anguirus, because the movie's not even close to being over yet. Godzilla, or the hand puppet, Godzilla Gigantis, bites down on Anguirus's neck, and you see, as best as you can in the black and white, the blood coming out until he kills it, and then he knocks it into the bay and sets it on fire after he kills it.
And just for good measure.
So then the next day you get another, just like from the first movie, another solemn scene of like the cityscape destroyed. Rather than have it like a national tragedy, you just see it through the eyes of the cannery guys. So our cannery is destroyed. I'm like, what about everybody else?
And yet they're right back out looking for fish.
In both versions, they say, let's move our operations up to Hokkaido, which is the very northern part of the country.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird stock footage of boats and planes at this point.
But so here's where the movie just comes to a dead halt, because now they've moved location. They're back to their old job of looking for fish for the fishing boats. Then after one hard day at work, they go to a party. And one of the pilots meets his old army buddies at this party, while the cannery is having another party in the next room at the restaurant. And this goes on for like 10 minutes until they get word that one of the fishing boats has been sunk. But between the time that Anguirus dies and they get the news that the fishing boat is sunk, that's like 15 minutes of the movie where it's nothing but people talking about the cannery and going to these 2 parties. So it is just like a waste of screen time. I think the Japanese version is 81 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. They could have made it 71 easily. Fast forward to the very end of the movie. Now that these old army buddies are all together, they're the ones that are going to go up in their planes, just like at the end, of the Death Star run at the end of Star Wars.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Gigantis. It's like the second Jaws and Jaws 2. He has come, he's following this cannery corporation and just doing them in at every turn.
He's probably feeding on the fish.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So they bury him in cocktail ice cubes.
So that's basically what they do. They follow Gigantis to this island. It's like a snowy island in the north of Japan, off of Hokkaido. But then they go back to headquarters after they bomb him a few times, again, making the movie screech to a halt before they figure out they can bury him in an avalanche. I'm like,
right, we got to go back.
Why do you think he's going to stay there for you?
Right.
So that's how the movie ends. It's
man.
they bomb all the snowy peaks all around Godzilla on this remote island, and bury him or her, depending on
poor
what way you're
Kobayashi,
looking at
man.
it. In ice.
Kobayashi goes boom, though.
Really know what he was doing.
He doesn't know what he was doing either.
He's got no weapons on his plane. He's still flying the fishing plane.
Right.
And was he there just to keep tabs on Godzilla, and then he just flies right into the mountain?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But then we end with live out our lives in happiness. And it's like, oh, your buddy just died. Your city's in ruins. But I guess you're happy.
This particular movie was like the white whale of Godzilla films. And the reason I say that is because, and what I was reading about this particular viewing backs this up, is there were no television rights sold to Gigantis the Fire Monster. So this was never shown on TV until the 80s.
Wow.
Back in the day, I'm going to look this up because I don't remember what the publishing company is, but I want to get this right. Okay, here we go. When I was a kid and I was in grade school, our school library had a series of monster books. They were hardcovers and they were in like orange and black Halloween font. And they were from a publishing company called Crestwood House. And there was a Godzilla book. There was a King Kong book. There was a Dracula book. There was a Frankenstein book. And what the book would do was very thin. And it would just go through all the various movies that these characters had and like plot points. And so I obviously got the Godzilla one like weekly out from the library. I've looked at buying a copy of one of these things on eBay, and unfortunately, they're a little bit more expensive than I'd like to pay, but eventually I will. They go for a couple of $100, even battered copies of them.
Really?
Because of that book, I knew all the Godzilla movies, up through the 70s, and the order in which that they were released. The one that I was always the most curious about was this one, because it said in the book it was released in America as Gigantis the Fire Monster. And I'd never seen this on television. There was a few photos of Godzilla fighting Anguirus. I would scour the TV guide anyway on a weekly basis looking for Godzilla movies, always hoping that they would show this movie. And they never, ever did. And now I know why, because the rights were never sold by the producers to American TV. And it didn't show up on TV until the late 80s on like cable channels. And then it was released on VHS. And I finally saw it. So again, it was the only one as a kid, really, I think, that I never, ever saw. Comparatively to the rest of the series, it'd be like a 2,000 to 1 in terms of viewings. Like I've seen this, I can count on one hand the amount of times I've seen this movie. And then whenever I watch it, I know why. I've only seen it like 4 times.
Oh, a lot of buildup for nothing, huh?
It's the monster scenes are good, right? They're not great, but they're good. And the anguirus suit is great.
Yeah.
But there's so much
of it. You want more of it.
There's just all this cannery crap is
You don't care about the fishing industry?
I don't care about it. And again, it's understandable because this was a quickie sequel, right? They probably had to pad the monster scenes out.
Sure.
In order to film the stuff and get it out there, because they were very limited as to what that they could do. But here's the most fascinating aspect of this is that originally, before it was released as Gigantis the Fire Monster, in 1957, a script was even written called The Volcano Monsters. Did you read about this? The American producers wanted to only cut out and use the special effects footage from Godzilla Raids Again, and they were going to build an entire movie, a new movie, around it using newly filmed scenes. So in order to achieve this, because they thought to themselves, well, what if we needed to have establishing shots that we don't have for our story? We don't have the monster suits. They arranged with Toho to get the monster suits. So Toho shipped them in boxes. And unfortunately, over time, they disappeared. But the funding...
They never made it back?
They never made it back.
Wow.
So they just...
Maybe they'll find them in a box somewhere, just like that.
They could be. They could be somewhere. And I was reading an account from some guy who was working on films, and I forget his name, and I'm so sorry that I didn't write this down. But somebody who was working on sci-fi films in the 50s, and he is a lauded name in films, says that he was taking a break one day from whatever movie he was filming on set, and he's sitting down eating lunch next to these two big crates, and one of them, he's looking at the label and it says Godzilla, and he's like, hey, what's in this crate? And one of the guys says, oh, that's a suit we got from Japan. It's for a movie that we were planning on making. So, like, can we open these crates?
Yeah, let's open this up.
So for the day, they took out the Godzilla suit. I don't know if the guy put it on or not.
Oh, how could you not put it on? You know that somebody put it on.
So I'm unclear, though, just because, you don't really have any photographic proof of what was in these crates, if it was the original suits from Godzilla Raids Again, or if they were new suits that were made just for this purpose. I wouldn't think that they'd make new suits. Probably was.
Think so.
Probably was the same ones they used for the Japanese movie.
Imagine open it up and it's just a hand puppet.
Yeah. The script was written for the volcano monsters, but it just fell through before filming even started.
There's not a single volcano in this movie. How would they have?
In the U.S. narration, I think that the island that they find the monsters on in the beginning, the narrator says that they were made from volcanic.
Yeah, like I said, you get that whole history of volcanic activity building up islands.
Yeah.
Maybe it was inkling. There was a little bit there.
Yeah.
So I did read that the trailer for this, the theatrical trailer for the U.S. didn't contain any scenes from the film at all. Really? It was just still images with graphics and narration. So probably whatever crazy crap that they're talking about, the voiceover. I'll look it up, see if it exists on YouTube.
100 tons of hell and fire. The fantastic war of giant fire monsters from the bowels of the earth. Creatures born in hell to destroy each other. But first, they'll destroy the world. As their struggle crushes mountains and smashes whole cities. As they scream their challenge of mortal combat and scorch the earth with 10,000-degree jets of flaming devastation.
Somebody posted a synopsis of what the volcano monsters would have been. 2 dinosaurs found frozen, brought to the U.S., and they thaw and fight in San Francisco.
Ooh.
So I don't know how they could have pawned off Osaka for San Francisco.
It looked like San Francisco.
Yeah.
I did notice his spines do not glow when he was releasing his atomic breath.
Yes, that's not even in the Japanese version do his spines glow.
Huh. Weird. But it's an odd addition to, like you said, they were trying to capitalize on the popularity of the first movie and just banged it out.
And like I said, this movie did do well in theaters. I think it was in the top 5 or top 10 for the year in Japanese theaters. Okay. But it didn't do well enough for them to revisit Godzilla until 6 years later with King Kong versus Godzilla. They concentrated on other newer monsters like Rodan and Mothra in the intervening years. So not a bad strategy. They built up a roster of monsters in those years.
Yes, they did.
Yes, they did.
We need more monsters in our lives.
We previously covered Son of Godzilla. And I think I went on record saying that was my least favorite of the Showa era. Uh-huh. I think I'm going to have to retract that statement.
You're not
after this
that.
one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's not a stinker, but there's far superior Godzilla movies out there.
Yeah. I don't know why it struck me to cover this one. Maybe just because of the white whale aspect.
Yeah, the mystique of it.
Yeah.
The weird treatment by the American is something to definitely discuss because it's weird. Gigantis. So anytime there's like scenes of newspapers, which every Godzilla movie has, I mean they use Gigantis. So you're filming a lot of stuff to kind of fill in these gaps. We need a fake newspaper.
So traditionally, we don't really give buckets to these movies.
Nope.
So we are not going to do that here, but we are going to go to the concession stand.
We are going to lean into the Thanksgiving of it all right now as we head into the Christmas holidays. This is I don't even know what to make of this. I dug deep you talk about this white whale of this this movie. I found a candy that was introduced in 1923. So for every Milky Way and Hershey bar that found success, there's obviously hundreds, if not thousands, of odd and outlandish concoctions that found no success in the candy aisle. And some of the more bizarre candies I came up with, there's a Sali Dande bar. It's a very short-lived candy bar named after a stripper. So apparently, I don't know why somebody greenlit that. There is a vegetable sandwich bar, which was an unfortunate combination of celery, peppers, and dried cabbage coated in chocolate.
Ooh.
Which just sounds horrific. But this blows my mind. So candy historian Ray Brokel estimates that between the First and Second World War alone, more than 30,000 candy bars had come out. And much like the film industry and the lottery, many have tried and very few succeeded. And so I'm bringing to the table, movie nerds, I give you the chicken dinner candy bar. Yeah, that's the right response. The raised eyebrow.
This sounds like a Wonka creation.
So introduced in 1923 by the Sperry Candy Company of Milwaukee, the oddly named bar sold for 10 cents and featured a roasted chicken on each package. And it was sold as an expensive high-grade candy, which is weird because it did not contain actual chicken.
What did it contain?
It
what
was
were its
filled.
contents?
It was filled with nuts and coated in chocolate. But they thought this was great counterintuitive programming, marketing. It was aimed at kids, and the chicken dinner ad campaign evoked a wholesome, comfy family gathering. So the ads literally had a roasted chicken as the main graphic. So it was released 6 years before the Great Recession. And in Ray Brokel's The Great American Candy Bar book, he wrote that in the years following World War I, the economy made many families feel fortunate if they had one good meal a day on the dinner table. A whole roasted chicken on a candy bar wrapper symbolized something substantial in terms of food value. So they were leaning into this idea that this was just this wholesome family comfy meal, even though it had nothing to do with chicken. Some of the graphics that I saw were kids riding on the back of giant chickens holding a candy bar. So, but they had this massive, aggressive campaign. They did billboards, they had magazine ads, and most notably, they had a fleet of trucks decorated to look like chickens. And they would drive around these chicken mobiles, and apparently the truck horns would cackle and crow like a chicken. And it became like this huge marketing thing.
So what would families do? Would they buy one bar and share it for dinner?
Well, it was aimed at kids. They even, during the recession, they lowered the price from 10 cents to 5 cents. So you're getting this bargain. But in 1962, Sperry was bought out by Pearson's, who makes the Bit of Honey. That's 40 years. 40 years this candy's been around. I've never heard of it. I saw the name and I'm like, this sounds horrific. But it really has absolutely nothing to do. It's kind of like Godzilla Raids. It's like you're getting a false sale of goods here.
That's like packaging a saltine and putting like a photo of caviar on the package.
Yeah, because it has nothing to do. What's interesting is I guess a lot of people kind of claim that this was riding on the coattails of Hoover's speech about the chicken in every pot. But that was long after this thing was already on the market. But Time Magazine came out a couple years ago with 13 most influential candy bars. And they put the chicken dinner at number 6, calling it a nutrition bar that paved the way for contemporary energy and meal replacement bars like Power Bar, Cliff, and Luna. Because of the high protein in the peanuts and the chocolate.
Oh.
So kids ate this stuff up. I guess everyone liked roasted chicken. Even though it had absolutely no chicken in it whatsoever, had nothing to do with chicken. So it's all marketing. It was just this fake marketing idea that was out there. They leveraged it and kids ate it up.
Imagine the lawsuits that people would send in on that today.
Well, I think that's actually why it was never reintroduced, because you would have liability issues by naming it chicken dinner.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we know the saying, winner, winner, chicken dinner. So that's my candy bar I brought to the table. I couldn't really find anything that was Thanksgiving related that wasn't candy corn. And I did not want to talk candy corn.
Christina's got to talk candy corn eventually.
That's fine. She can talk candy corn.
She is the biggest fan, I think, of the three of us of the candy corn.
Knock your socks out. Yeah. So chicken dinner candy. Go look it up. The ad campaigns are pretty interesting.
Did the phrase winner, winner, chicken dinner come from this?
I don't think so. I didn't see that as part of their marketing campaign.
That would have been fabulous.
That would have been great.
If we could have dropped that nugget of information on this show.
I just thought it was a nice way to end my...
Very apropos for Thanksgiving.
There you go. Chicken dinner.
Even though it's not turkey.
It's not turkey, but it is.
It's fowl of some kind.
It's fowl, all right. If that was really made out of chicken, forget it. So, but that other one, talk about fowl. That one with the vegetable sandwich bar, celery, peppers, and dried cabbage coated in chocolate. You sadistic mother effers. That's horrible.
It had to have been dried out vegetables, right? So it'd be snappy, I guess. Yeah, I don't know.
Thursday afternoon, see 3 of the screen's greatest thrillers. Starting at 1 with the greatest of them all, the one and only original King Kong. Then the action continues with the Son of Kong, followed by the Mighty Joe Young, a classic tale of Beauty and the Beast. A full afternoon of action and adventure. Thursday afternoon at 1. We will continue with King Kong following these messages.
Come on along, I'll take you to the lullaby of Broadway. Hickory and ballyhoo,
the lullaby of Broadway.
And in the center of it all
Is the Milford Plaza.
Stay at the Milford Plaza Hotel with cocktail dinner and breakfast for $43 per person. Discover why we are the lullaby of Broadway.
The Milford Plaza is the lullaby of Broadway.
Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, see the all-new 111th edition of the greatest show on earth. Whether you're 2 or 102, you'll never forget this year's new fashion circus in the old-fashioned tradition with the world's greatest animal trainer, death-defying high-wire artist, and the funniest clowns on the face of this earth. It's the experience of a lifetime. Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circuits.
Now at Meadowlands Arena. Also coming to Nassau Coliseum Thursday, December 3rd. See your newspaper for details.
What do you call a kid who can dive like that? You call that kid a Cracker Jack. And what do you call a kid who gives the ball a whack? You call that kid a Cracker Jack. What do you call a snack with the secret toy surprise in the back? Peanuts and popcorn that make your lips smack. It's caramel coated Cracker Jack.
When you're really good, they call you Cracker Jack.
Let's talk about our next feature.
I thought this was actually kind of fun and different because, like you said, we're running out of King Kong movies.
We are. We still have a couple that we can talk about,
but still, yeah.
But this is Konga, which was released in theaters. Sometimes it's unbelievable to me that these movies even made it to theaters after you
Well, I will tell you, based on the name alone, I was very disappointed that there's not a single Gloria Estefan or Miami Sound Machine reference in here at all.
Or if you put the shoe on the other foot, that there's no reference to this movie in that song.
Konga. I will tell you this as a public service announcement. Do not turn this into a drinking game. If you drank every time the word Konga was mentioned, you would be inebriated within the first 20 minutes.
Especially as he's screaming, Konga,
Konga, put me down, Konga. Yeah. I can't believe this is Michael Gough. That's Alfred.
Alfred.
The Tim Burton Batman.
Yeah.
And I think he played Alfred And all the way up to the
and the Schumacher. He survived into Schumacher. Yeah.
Yeah. He is not a likable character here.
No, he is not here. But he's a big genre guy though. Outside of this and Batman, he was a fixture of Hammer films.
Okay. Yep.
Also, Burton used him in Sleepy Hollow. So he's.
Oh, that's right. Yes, you're right.
He should be very familiar to genre fans.
Yeah, but here he plays Dr. Charles Decker, a famed botanist. When have botanists been famous? There's
those two words. Those two words don't go.
People cared about this guy, and again, plane crash right up front. We get a plane crash,
and it's said that the plane is crashing into the deepest, darkest jungle. It looks like upstate New York that it's crashing into.
I did love the fact that a year later, when they find out that he actually survived, he's like, "Oh, I jumped out, but the pilot didn't." But he jumped out and he had all of his camera equipment.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to salvage my camera equipment before I leapt from the plane,
so I could film all of the. Witch Doctor.
I did not help the pilot extricate himself from his seatbelt, but I did grab my camera equipment.
Yeah, well, that's all that's important to him. This guy's so self-absorbed, it's ridiculous. But I did like the when did this as the sound effects for a jungle? If I walk out into a jungle, am I really going to hear that?
I would assume so.
Bird? Is that a bird? Is that a monkey?
I think it's a monkey.
Gotta be a bird.
Could be a bird.
But yes, he miraculously survives. He's been out in the jungle for a year.
But before we even get there, we get these wonderful James Bondian colorful credits in the credit sequence.
Yeah, that was very cool. The graphics.
And of course, I would be remiss to not mention that this was an American international picture. So they have got so many great crappy movies that they have graced us with over the 50s, 60s, 70s. And this is just one of many. I have to give a shout out to AIP.
There you go. And this is glorious. 1961. So this was really only 6 years after our previous movie we just covered.
Yeah. But this is like glorious Technicolor, right? So this looks like a nice Hollywood production until you get to the actual FX sequences.
Leaves a little to be desired. Right. I like how a chimpanzee can turn into an ape.
So Dr. Decker survives his jungle experience, and you never see him in the jungle. You only see the plane crash. And it's not even a plane crashing. It's like a plane flying and then a superimposed explosion. Over it.
Yeah.
And then suddenly he's back in London. And a newspaper boy is Dr. Decker, survives jungle trek after 10 years or whatever.
How come we didn't get the spinning newspaper?
We didn't get the spinning newspaper.
No, they couldn't afford it. They put all their money in the ape suit.
So he's giving a press conference to these two reporters, the only two that care about botanists.
Is he like in the airport?
But he's cradling this chimp that apparently he's brought back with him from the jungle that he's named Konga. And he's cradling it like a baby. So you think that it saved his life.
It doesn't even have a diaper on it. This thing could poop at any minute.
He's obviously holding it in a very loving way. So you think he's attached to this. No, that's not the case whatsoever.
I like the fact that he talks about going back to his job at the college. And I'm like, you've been dead for a year. Yeah. You really think they held your job?
Was it only a year or was it more than that? It was just a year. Okay.
Yeah. And his secretary stayed on. Like, I got nothing better to do. All right, this guy's dead. He's lost in the jungle. All right, I'll stay here.
And this secretary has issues herself because apparently she really knows that this guy is a jerk. Yeah, she's resigned herself. Okay, I've been with this guy for this long. He might as well marry me,
So was it implied that they were boinking? Because she was attached to him. Definitely.
Yeah. Well, she kept saying that you need to make an honest woman out of me.
Yeah, which means that they were sleeping together. Is my take. I don't know, but this guy is breaking several international laws concerning invasive species of flora and fauna right off the bat. You're bringing back plants, carnivorous plants.
He's talking about how he studied, and when he was in the jungle, he studied plants with animal properties. And this has always been his field of study, right? He wanted to find the missing link between plants and animals and create something new, like Dr. Frankenstein. So he comes back, and like you said, he's brought back some bulbs or whatever from the jungle that he plants in his greenhouse.
His greenhouse.
So then you get a flash forward, days later, and they're all fully grown, and it's all like huge Venus flytraps.
These things were like tongue-wagging penis plants. And I'm like, no
these
wonder
other
why
things. I'm
no
like,
wonder
are
why
these
you
supposed
stayed
to
there
be
for a year.
Are these based on? I know the Venus flytrap, but I've never seen a giant green veiny penis plant with.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if that one. Well, listen, he was in the depths of the jungle, so maybe they do exist. Because the one-lid ones do exist as well, because they have like some kind of a juice.
Yeah, those look like scrotums with mouths on the top.
Yeah, there was a lot of phallic stuff going on here with these plants. This was just, and his plan makes no sense. It made absolutely no sense to me. Like, if you're telling me you want to create this formula that's going to make cattle and chickens grow to enormous size to feed, starving countries, but no, he's just doing this for what purpose? No purpose.
Revenge.
Because they didn't believe him that he was smart as he was.
No.
It didn't make any sense. I don't know. It didn't make any sense. But yeah, he's only been home a week, and all of a sudden these plants are monstrous.
Because he's already perfected the formula, right? So he's got this little green formula that will make anything grow. And he's derived it from these plants. So Margaret's poor cat.
This is hysterical. I could not stop laughing when this happened, this cat. Because he is a jerk, and she's like, "Oh, I kept up all your studies or all your experiments while you're gone." Screw that! And he's pulling these things out of the ground. He's like, "We got to start from scratch." And she's like, "I just wasted a year of my life keeping these things alive, thinking you were dead." Nope, got to move on.
And she's already mentioned the cat a few times at this point.
Yeah,
and that something bad is going to happen to this animal.
So he's boiling up this potion, and it bubbles. And it spills on the floor, and the cat starts licking it up. And he immediately pulls out a revolver and shoots the cat. He's like, "We can't have a leopard-sized cat running around." "Oh no, but we can have a giant gorilla." That's your not problem. You're not.
You can't hypnotize the leopard-sized cat, but you can the gorilla.
Right.
Because apparently, when you hypnotize the gorilla, it can also understand English, and it can understand everything that you're telling it.
Yeah, he shoots this cat.
And then Margaret's like, "That's my cat. What are you doing?" Yeah. But she's still, but I love you. I still love you.
Yeah. Even after she finds out he's killing people, he's like, "What are you going to do? You're an accomplice." "No, I'm not. I had nothing to do with this." "Screw you, idiot." Oh, he is a jerk.
So almost immediately after the cat scene, she says something to the effect that, "You love that monkey more than me." "Oh, do I? This is going to be this is going to be the first link between plant and animal. Watch this." So he shoves the monkey down to the floor.
Oh, this poor
I really hope they didn't really inject this with
I was trying to watch too, because it is a full syringe with a needle. So if he's just unloading it behind his arm to make it look like it was going into the chimp, it was well done, so you didn't see it pooling out. But
right.
Yeah, if they just injected this chimp, this is yeah.
So then you get a dissolve shot.
This is horrible. It's not even a dissolve. It's like they're running soap over the front of this.
It's like, how like they have the wavy when a character is dreaming, or it's going into a like, you see the monkey get a little bit bigger.
Where they're going, yeah, except, and then you just see the chimp grow through the miracle of trick photography.
So he gets a little bit bigger, big enough that he can serve them tea on a tray.
Wow, that's what you want your chimp to do.
In terms of the movie making, you've replaced the baby chimp that he was cradling in the beginning with a full adult chimp that's, only about 3 feet tall, right? That's coming in and serving tea. As soon as he sees that it's serving Margaret tea, he's like, "Whoa, we can't have that. I'm going to inject this again." So he injects it again, and it does the dissolve again. And suddenly it's a man in a gorilla suit. I'm like, how do you go from a chimp to a gorilla?
To a gorilla. That is some magic potion right there.
And it looks like he's wearing, like, the bottom of the gorilla suit is like a dress of like a fur dress.
Maybe it was a female gorilla. Oh, but this is where we're introduced to Sandra, one of his students, and he is just creepy.
I know what he's been injecting on Sandra with that growth serum.
Yeah, it goes, "My, how you have grown." It's like, all right, chill out there, old man.
So apparently he is a teacher, right, at the university. So
who they just were waiting to give his job back. But he immediately gets into it with the dean.
Because the dean is like, can you tone down on the interviews where you're talking about you found the link between plants and animals? I have, Dean.
Yeah.
And
for what end? Again, what purpose? Doesn't make any sense.
So anyway, the dean fires him. And now, of course, he has to get rid of the dean to keep his job. Because apparently this is like a George Costanza thing where after the dean dies, he just shows back up to work again.
Yes.
Because he's still a teacher,
Yeah. Oh, that's really sad. Yeah. And they're just, these cops are like asking them questions and like, well, we don't know. There's no connection here whatsoever. We don't know. We found some chimpanzee hair at the scene.
That doesn't mean anything at this point in time during the film. We'll tie that together in at the end.
Yeah, if you tell me he wants to grow food to feed the world, he has no grand scheme other than to just prove that he's a genius.
So now that Konga is a gorilla, like a 6 foot tall gorilla, inexplicably the serum can also give him control over it. Like he's got hypnotic powers with a flashlight that he can tell Konga to do whatever he wants. So the first order of business is after he gets fired is to kill the dean.
Right.
And very conveniently, the dean is still in his office after he's fired Decker. So nobody knows that he's been fired. So all he has to do is kill the dean and he's not fired. He still has his job.
Yeah. I do like Konga. He's got some salacious side eye, like because he's not doing much emoting in the face. All he can do is his eyes.
Yeah, I don't think that they bothered to darken in the eyes of the actor because you just see his skin under the eye holes.
Right. The head is so big, but the eye holes are still human proportions. So his eyes are really too close together. It's just weird looking.
I was expecting him to take off his mask and it's Roger Moore from Octopussy in the back of the train. And he's telling the cat that is now leopard size, sit.
Yes, sit. Yeah, you do have to admire this guy's tenacity because, boy, he is all in on this. Well, I got this giant gorilla. I might as well use him to kill people.
Yeah, and he's got like a gorilla size. He's got that gorilla size van with no windows that he can easily transport him to the crime scene and then away again.
Was that like the school van?
It may have been, actually.
Like he picked up his students at one point, and I'm like, are you using school property to kill people?
Brings the students on a field trip, which is really just an excuse for him to get close with Sandra.
What a creep.
So he puts all the students in the back of the van. They're just like bobbing around back there. It's like there's no, and he keeps the door open. So he doesn't even shut the door as he drives the van away with the students.
Hold
in the
on,
back.
kids. Well, Bob's back there. Bob was leaning into his Ewan McGregor accent, but that angle.
Bob was a little bit overbearing in terms of being a boyfriend because he was looking to take over Sandra's life.
I would, if I was Sandra, I'd want nothing to do with Bob either.
But still, he is aware that Decker does not have the most pristine intentions when it comes to Sandra. So
because Bob made it sound like they dated for a year, and then all of a sudden Decker comes back and all of a sudden she wants to spend all her time with him.
There's a scene where Bob fights Decker and strangles him to the point of almost killing him.
Hey, listen, now you know how it feels when the gorilla attacks you.
Then he realizes what he's doing and he says, I'm sorry, sir. Does this mean I'm going to fail your class or something?
I know. It's like, all right, we're not going to talk about this.
Don't worry. I'm not ever going to mention it again, except to Konga. I'll give him a little insight as to what to do about this.
Yeah, and Konga tore the dean's head off. He tore his head off.
We're told. We don't see that. We're
not shown that. No, we're informed that that's what happened. But now he has he says, all right, now I'm just going to have a dinner party. Did he want to take over the dean's?
I think that's what he was doing. He's looking to be the new dean of the school. And again, this is kind of like the nightclub scene in Godzilla Raids Again, where it just goes on and like, okay, what's the point of this?
What is the point? They're all talking about how horrific it is that the dean was killed. And so Margaret is not only his secretary, but also his housekeeper. He's secretly told her that they will get married. But apparently he has no plans to actually follow through with that. But after the dinner party, like he meets that other professor and finds out that professor's been doing basically the same experiment that he's been working on. So now we got to kill him.
Yeah, this guy's like direct from Harry Potter, Professor Quirrell. I think his name. Yeah.
But they're sitting there, after the party. They're both still, party dresses and in their tux. And Margaret's like, oh, I think I'm going to bed. And I'm like, no. Those glasses are not going to clone themselves, Margaret. You get up and you wash them. I did like it because I did have the closed captioned on. And whenever they were outside, they would say crickets chirruping.
Chirruping?
Chirruping. CHIRRUPING. I'm like, oh, I've been saying it wrong all this time. Is it anguirus, not anguirus? Chirruping. But yeah, so he goes midnight. He goes over to Professor Tagori's house.
So like you said, the professor is telling him at the party that he's making the same advancements as Decker is, talking about the link between plants and animals. And then the Decker says, oh, surely you're only in theoretical stage, correct? Oh, no, I've actually done something.
All right, we got to do away.
We got to take care of you. So he brings the school van, right? When this van is a rocking, you better not come knocking.
I hope Sandra's not in the back.
Yeah. So he gets to the professor's house. He opens the van, the back door, just a little bit.
Just a little. There might be a surprise in the back. We don't know.
Then he goes up to the professor's house, and sure enough, the professor. Well, he didn't show him any monkeys that were grown to 6 feet tall.
No, he didn't show me anything that made me prove that he was as far as long as Decker was.
As Decker was, but still, Konga shows up.
No chances. We don't take any chances.
Yeah, shows up, strangles him. But not before the professor has realization in his eyes, like, you're killing me because of what I know.
Right. Yeah, I'm glad that Konga has like expert timing at that point, like right when he needs to choke the guy. Boom.
Yeah,
he has dramatic timing.
And then after that is when we get the fight between him and Bob, the boyfriend, and now Bob has to be also taken out. Before Bob goes out to be killed by Konga, he's eating dinner with his family, which is terrible, right? So you see him with his two younger siblings, and the father says, "No woman is worth going hungry for."
He is right.
As the Americans say, play it cool.
I know, as the Americans say, play it cool. But Bob had to go because he was driving a Vespa. Yeah. Konga was just waiting in the bushes.
That was Luca worthy, that Vespa.
But Decker's just like skulking in the shadows. And I'm like, you've now like shown 3 crime scenes. The cops are admitting that there's chimpanzee hair left at all 3 crime scenes. You can't connect the dots to the doctor that brought a chimp back from Africa.
But yeah, so Bob gets strangled by Konga, strangled to death, and his poor family hear something going on outside. They run out to only find their son killed by his Vespa. Then you see Konga. There's one scene where you see him walking across the field, either before or after this murder.
Right.
And he looks like a constipated Fred Mertz in this outfit.
He's like, I gotta go. But of course, Margaret wants to know that she knows what's going on. She's like, what do you want with your poached eggs? Murder. He's like, well played. I just want to know, when did Bullet Bros go out of style, by the way? They do need to make a comeback.
Yeah, at some point in the, I think, early 60s when this film was made.
Yeah, maybe this movie killed them. I don't know. They're like, all right. So,
and Decker says to her after the poached egg line, perhaps you want to leave me. No, I can't. I can't.
Jerk.
Now it's time. He realizes he has to destroy Konga before he's implicated in these killings, because the police are slowly putting 2 and 2 together.
Yeah, they're not very fast, so he's got time. No. But yeah, that's also where Margaret overhears him in the greenhouse professing his love to Sandra and forcing himself on this poor girl.
Because he says that he's bringing Sandra over to dinner so he can have...
Oh, that's right. They did have dinner beforehand, yeah.
So he can cover himself. We need to have her in the house so she can see that everything is normal. And so Margaret agrees, but she overhears them in the greenhouse when he tries to force himself on her. Now, the poor girl, Margaret, injects Konga to become like King Kong size now.
And then she's surprised that he grew.
She's surprised that he grew because she does it while he's still in the basement. So he grows.
Like, how's he getting out of this house? He's now trapped in the basement.
But he grabs Margaret, which is obviously
it was a doll. But it wasn't even like a doll in human proportions. It was like a Raggedy Ann doll with a big giant head, and it was just so glorious to cut back and forth between them.
And he throws her like to the far end of the lab, and then he keeps getting bigger, so he grows out of the house.
He punches right out of the ceiling. Yeah.
So nobody can hear this in the greenhouse, so he sneaks up to the greenhouse and he sees Decker all leering over Sandra and punches his way through the greenhouse. But instead of grabbing Sandra like your classic King Kong would, he grabs Decker.
Yeah.
So, but poor Sandra, she tries to leave the greenhouse and gets bitten on the arm by one of these big Venus flytraps. And that's the last you see her.
That's the last we see her. We don't know what happened. I wanted to just see her arm and it's nothing but a skeleton.
Or it's just like a stump. Like they pull her out of the greenhouse and she's got no arm.
No, we never see her again.
No.
But the house is on fire and the fire department just shows up. I'm like, who called these people? Of course, hey, look at that. It's a giant gorilla. Of course, this is where we get Decker screaming at him, put me down, you fool. Put me down.
And this is where he repeats, Konga, Konga. And you see the composite shot of Konga holding Decker. And it's just this actor, Michael Goh, standing. So he looks like he's standing in midair with
right.
And it just looks terrible. It looks terrible.
But this is where the cops do come and they're like, there's an enormous gorilla that keeps growing to outrageous proportions, terrorizing the city. I'm like, okay, that's very specific.
There's a huge monster gorilla that's constantly growing to outlandish proportions loose in the streets.
Konga, born of a scientist's dreams, bred on a madman's nightmares, brought out of the jungle and turned into a wild beast beyond man's understanding.
I am your master, and you must obey me.
Starring Michael Gough as Dr. Decker, who stole the jungle's secrets of sorcery, Margot Johns as the girl who becomes an accessory to murder, with Claire Gordon as the young student. Trapped with a madman in a nightmare world of fear, jealousy, and passion.
Let me go!
Sandra, you know I loved you! The jungle scene of color, excitement, and spectacle is thrillingly mixed with the close mystery of strange insectivorous and carnivorous plants. See them. Fear them. Konga, the most fantastic beast of all time. Not since King Kong has a screen exploded with such mighty fury and spectacle. In the new process of spectramation and Eastman color, he grows in size and terror before your eyes. In a film that fills the screen with giant entertainment.
Poor Konga. He's just a pawn in the game of life here. He didn't ask. He didn't ask for any of this, Konga.
But when he goes into the city, right? When Konga goes into the city, he makes it a point not to break anything else. The only thing he actually destroys is the house that he grows out of.
Yeah.
But otherwise, he's like bending over the building to swat at the people, but he's not touching the building.
He's not terrorizing it. Yeah. He's just misunderstood.
And then he goes and stands in front of Big Ben, right?
How great is that shot? That completely reminds me of the 76 Kong in front of the World Trade Center.
Yes.
There's literally a upshot exactly like that.
So I'm looking at this shot and I'm thinking, is that like a composite where he's in front of the real Big Ben, or is that a miniature Big Ben? Because if that was a miniature, you would want him to destroy that at some point. Yeah.
You built this thing, right? Take it down. Doesn't matter. He doesn't.
So maybe it was if it was a composite, it was very well done because I couldn't tell.
Yeah, but I do like Konga stops. Like people are just running. They're like it's chaos. People are just terrorized in the streets. But then Konga stops, so they stop. It's like, no, you keep running. You don't, the army moves in and they're all like lined up on it like it's a parade.
The army moves in and they start firing for they don't even pause with the firing for like 5 minutes.
No, and they are like stormtroopers. They can't hit a thing. This is a giant gorilla and all the tracer guns are going over his head. Oh man! But this is music swells, and I can see.
And they don't even care that he's holding the guy in his hand. They're just firing indiscriminately at both of them.
No, I hope he falls on everybody. To be honest with you, nope.
Eventually, the shots find their mark because those tracer the explosions.
Yeah.
Eventually, you see them like on the body of the gorilla and not above him.
They finally got him.
Yep. So he goes down like an American Werewolf in London ending, where once he dies, he reverts back to the little baby chimpanzee, lying dead in the street next to the dead Dr. Decker, right next to him.
If he reverted, wouldn't he have giant holes in him from the guns?
He would.
Decker, at least he took Decker out with him.
And nobody clears this. The cops don't clear the street. Like
I said,
as they're firing, everybody's still just standing there.
Like it's a parade. Yeah, it's like, oh, let's watch this. This is cool. Look at this giant gorilla taking over.
The clock strikes midnight, like after the
boom,
as if like that's the Cinderella story. He turns back into a chimp.
And that's it. The end.
The end.
Nobody learns anything.
So there's a lot of filler going on in this movie as well. There's countless, as you said, the party scene. There's all these theoretical scenes between Decker and Margaret. Again, this was, for me, a WPIX movie. They would show this movie. For whatever reason, I remember Channel 11 showed it. And they would show this on Saturday afternoon. And back in those days, as we've often said, beggars couldn't be choosers. You watched what came on.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had a Konga on a Saturday afternoon, you were happy with Konga on a Saturday afternoon. It's maybe they edited the television version. I didn't remember it being as boring as it was. Yeah. Of course, what I remembered was him holding the doctor and being shot at in front of Big Ben.
Which is the last
like 2 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
As I'm watching it now, I'm like, I sat through all this whole movie when I was a kid.
There was a lot of crap we sat through just to get to the monster parts.
Yeah. And then I'm thinking to myself, I sat through this guy in a gorilla suit when I was a kid. And I ate it up.
It was a giant monster. That's it.
If Christina is listening, this is a nugget that I pulled just for her. Austin Trevor, the actor that played the Dean, the first actor to portray Hercule Poirot on film.
Ooh, really?
Yes. Also the first actor to be killed by Konga on screen.
Well played. I did see that the original title of this was I Was a Teenage Gorilla.
Yes. Written and produced by Herman Cohen, in part by Herman Cohen. He paid RKO $25,000 for the use of the name Konga.
Why, did they trademark that?
I guess. You had to pay for that just even to be Kong because it was part of your title? I don't know.
Close enough to Kong.
I guess it was, yeah. The special effects took 18 months to finish.
What?
Godzilla Raids Again from conception to in theater
5
took
months.
6 months, right?
Yeah.
And still, that looks far and away 1,000,000 times better than this does.
I did read that there was a paperback tie-in novelization written by one Dean Owen that included gratuitous sexual scenes that were entirely unrelated to the film. And this guy also wrote an erotic tie-in novelization for the film Reptilicus.
I read this too, but the filmmakers of Reptilicus sued him for that, right?
Yeah, they sued him. That's early fan fiction right there.
I'm just conjecturing, but the scenes in question for Konga involved Sandra. I'm just guessing.
I would like to think
out
so.
there. Yeah,
and maybe Bob's glorious Angora sweater.
Maybe.
Yeah. There was a one-issue comic adaptation by Charlton Comics,
which came out a year before.
Yeah.
So talk about spoiler alert.
And then there was a 23-issue sequel series. Yeah, there was a bunch of comic books that were tied into this. So
it was a co-production, actually, between American International Pictures and Anglo Amalgamated Pictures in England. So they split the $500,000 budget. And the guy who played Konga in the suit got it only because he was exactly 6 feet tall. And during the casting call was the only one that perfectly fit inside the gorilla.
I was going to say the only one that showed up.
And he also had brown eyes. So there was a couple of actors there that had blue eyes and they didn't get it because of the color of their eyes.
Contacts would have done that.
And in the States, American International Pictures put it out as a double feature with Master of the World, which was a Jules Verne adaptation.
Oh. Okay. I'm assuming this was the backup feature.
This was not a success. So, but it gained almost immediately a cult following because, it hit unlike Gigantis the Fire Monster, it did hit the TV circuit, obviously, because I saw it many times in my 70s youth.
It was entertaining.
Yeah, it was it was funny. It was just laugh out loud. Yeah. Especially when Margaret becomes like the little, as you said, the Raggedy Ann in Konga's hand.
That and the cat were the two highlights of the movie. Well, the fight between Decker and Bob was up there too. It was like, what are you doing? It's like, God, this guy. No redeeming qualities whatsoever to this character, Decker.
All right.
It was enjoyable for a Thanksgiving Monster Marathon. That was actually streaming.
Konga was streaming on Prime, so you didn't have to pay extra for it. And just like most everything on Prime, it was cleaned up, really pristine. Colors popped. As long as you can make it through some of that character exposition to the quote unquote effect sequences, I think it's worth a look. You know what we still haven't done in terms of the Kong movies? King Kong Lives.
Oh, we have not done that. Yeah.
And we still haven't done Skull Island either. No.
And that's glorious.
Yeah, it is.
That is actually a lot of fun.
I've been holding back on that one. Like that's got to be a special occasion.
Did we do the 76 Kong?
We did. Yep, we did.
Oh, we did.
Remember, we
how do I not know this?
We offended quite a few people by not giving Carlo Rambaldi.
Yeah, that is true. Listen, there's only so much homework we can do for these damn shows. We're not the end all be all.
Right.
We bring our own experiences and
So as we've come to the end of another Thanksgiving episode, I can't help but feel sad. We've got to put the TMI turkey back in its cage for another year.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no, he's free roaming. We don't want to keep him in a cage, right?
You keep him in your house, by the way.
I'll put him in the backyard here.
Okay. Fair enough. So there you go. Well, happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving. Watch a monster movie. Relive the old days.
I almost did Hostess fruit pies because I love a good blueberry. I love a good blueberry pie for Thanksgiving. But once I came across that chicken dinner candy bar, I'm like, all right, we gotta talk about this oddity.
We'll have to save the Hostess for another day, right?
Yes, and those the blueberry ones are getting hard to find. Actually, what I really wanted to do was the McDonald's apple pie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that would scald your mouth. There was actually a warning on the outside of those little heater things that they kept them in.
Oh, that little bit of skin between your two front teeth, behind your two front teeth.
Just fall right off.
Ugh.
Yeah, apple pie. So we'll keep that in the back pocket.
Hey, Mobius knows from Loki to get that apple pie.
Oh, that is true.
All right, then. Thanks, everybody.
Yes, thank you. And we'll talk to you next time.
Yeah, and if you want some more monster action from us, at least go back and listen to our other 5 episodes, our Thanksgiving episodes. Yeah.
But we do have Godzilla -1 right on the horizon.
Yes, it is. That will actually be our next episode.
That will be our next episode. So we are staying right in the kaiju verse.
Yes, we are. And thankfully so.
All right. Although I don't think there's any monsters or a man in suit in this. It's all CG.
It looks pretty damn good, though.
I know. I'm very excited. Oh, my expectations are out the window already. All right. Stay with us and we'll talk about that.
Yes, we will. All right. Bye, everybody.
All right. Bye.
Hey, everybody. If you like what you just heard, be sure to follow TMI Confessionals of the Nerd Kind on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or whatever you listen to your favorite podcasts on. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and then share it with your fellow movie nerd friends. It means the world to us and helps our listenership grow.
You can also find us on all of the socials, Instagram and Twitter at TMI_podcast 2018. We're on Facebook and YouTube as well. Just look for the Popcorn Bucket.
You can help support this show by visiting our TeePublic page for some TMI branded goodies such as hoodies, t-shirts, mugs, and stickers. tpublic.com/TMI Confessionals, all one word.
A 5-star review would be incredibly nice as well. I'm just saying.
Thanks again for listening. We truly appreciate you. Be sure to come back next week. We'll save some popcorn for you.
Do you want me to say it one more time?
One more time.